Desire without discipline leads to emptiness. Genuine love thrives in commitment, not indulgence. Asterisk, asterisk. In every generation, the human heart has wrestled with desire. Desire is not a flaw. It is part of our design. It can inspire creativity, deepen relationships, and move us toward connection and fulfillment. But desire without discipline becomes a wildfire, something that begins with a spark of excitement, yet quickly grows into something uncontrollable, destructive, and consuming. Many people today are encouraged to follow every impulse without question, without reflection, without boundaries. Voices in culture whisper, if it feels good, do it. If it excites you, chase it. If it promises pleasure, don't hesitate. But behind that message lies a dangerous illusion, one that has left countless lives feeling hollow, confused, and broken. When desire operates without discipline, it leads to choices that may satisfy for a moment but leave scars that last far beyond the moment. Pleasure promises freedom, but when it becomes the center of life, it often creates bondage. Instant gratification feels like liberation, but it can quietly become dependence. The more a person indulges without restraint, the more they crave and the less they feel satisfied. Desire without boundaries doesn't quiet the appetite, it increases it. And so, the cycle repeats: deeper searching, stronger cravings, and greater emptiness. In relationships, this lack of discipline becomes especially devastating. Society has turned intimacy into entertainment, affection into transaction, and love into something disposable. It tells us that commitment is old-fashioned, that patience is unnecessary, and that loyalty is optional. The result is a culture filled with connections that feel exciting but collapse under pressure, relationships that burn intensely but fade quickly, and hearts that move from person to person without ever truly being known or truly being loved. Genuine love cannot grow in the soil of constant indulgence. It cannot thrive where loyalty is absent and discipline is dismissed. Real intimacy demands trust, and trust is built through consistency, respect, and self-control. Love flourishes when two people are willing to choose each other, not only when emotions are high, but also when challenges arise, when temptation presents itself, when circumstances change, and when sacrifice is required. Love is not sustained by passion alone. It is sustained by commitment. Passion may ignite the flame, but commitment keeps it burning when the winds of life blow. Discipline and desire is not about denying pleasure. It is about preserving the value of what is truly meaningful. It draws lines that protect rather than restrict. It creates boundaries that strengthen rather than suffocate. Discipline allows desire to grow into something purposeful instead of reckless. The person who learns to master desire becomes stronger, wiser, and more grounded. The one who lets desire master them becomes restless, fragile, and incomplete. In a world saturated with temptation, discipline becomes an act of strength. It means saying no when everything in the moment says yes. It means looking beyond immediate feelings to understand future consequences. It means respecting yourself and respecting others enough to value their heart, their dignity, their future, and their well-being. Discipline transforms desire into something powerful and meaningful instead of something fleeting and destructive. It is often said that the greatest freedom is found within boundaries. Consider a river. Water without boundaries becomes a flood, destructive, directionless, and dangerous. But water contained within riverbanks flows with purpose, brings life to the land around it, and becomes a source of power. In the same way, desire without boundaries becomes chaos. Desire guided by discipline becomes strength. Many people today are exhausted because they have confused pleasure with purpose. They have spent years chasing thrills that leave them emptier than before. They have followed impulses that promised happiness but delivered regret. They have mistaken momentary excitement for lasting fulfillment. And after enough cycles of disappointment, they begin to wonder why nothing seems to satisfy, why relationships feel shallow, why intimacy feels confusing, why peace feels distant, The answer is simple. Desire without discipline consumes rather than completes. Genuine love, the kind that endures, grows only where discipline supports it. Love is not found in conquest, but in commitment. It is not found in the pursuit of temporary pleasure, but in the pursuit of lasting devotion. Love requires patience, humility, and sacrifice, qualities that cannot exist without discipline. Indulgence seeks to take. Genuine love seeks to give. Indulgence chases moments. Genuine love builds a lifetime. Indulgence demands instant gratification. Genuine love invests in long-term growth. When desire becomes discipline, it becomes a powerful force for connection instead of confusion. It fosters relationships built on trust instead of suspicion, on honor instead of manipulation, on integrity instead of impulse. It transforms intimacy from something temporary into something sacred. It turns hearts from restless wandering toward purposeful belonging. And in that belonging, a person discovers a depth of fulfillment that indulgence could never provide. The emptiness that follows unrestrained desire is not a mystery. It is the natural result of placing temporary pleasure above lasting purpose. Every heart ultimately longs for connection, meaning, and stability, things indulgence cannot provide. A disciplined heart, however, is capable of building relationships that stand firm through storms, that endure through time, and that bring a richness no momentary thrill can match. Discipline is not the enemy of desire. It is the guardian of its greatest potential. When a person chooses to guide their desires with wisdom, strength, and purpose, they discover a life that is fuller, richer, deeper, and more meaningful than anything indulgence could offer. And in learning to love with commitment rather than indulgence, they find a kind of fulfillment that pleasure alone could never give. Asterisk, asterisk, true power is measured by service, not control or domination. Asterisk, asterisk, power is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. Many chase power, believing it will elevate them, secure them, validate them, or protect them. Yet the hunger for power has shaped empires and destroyed them, built great leaders and corrupted others, lifted communities and torn them apart. The human desire for influence runs deep because influence gives us the sense that our voice matters, that our presence carries weight, that our actions have significance. But the way power is used determines whether it becomes a blessing or a burden, a tool for building or a weapon for destruction. Throughout history and in our world today, power is often portrayed as domination. It is seen as the ability to control others, to command attention, to force outcomes, or to demand compliance. But this idea of power is shallow, insecure, and fragile. It relies on fear rather than respect, intimidation rather than trust, and coercion rather than inspiration. The person who must dominate others to feel powerful has not gained true influence. They have only gained temporary control. And control built on fear is always temporary, because fear dissolves the moment authority weakens. The illusion of power is that it promises significance, but domination isolates the one who practices it. When a person seeks power only for themselves, they create distance between their heart and the people they influence. They may be obeyed, but they are not respected. They may be feared, but they are not followed willingly. They may be elevated, but they are not admired. This kind of power can silence others for a time, but it can never win their loyalty or trust. True power is not about how many people bow before you. It is about how many people are lifted because of you. It is not measured by how loudly you command, but by how deeply you inspire. It is not demonstrated by the number of decisions you control, but by the number of lives you strengthen. Power that controls others dies when authority ends, but power that serves others continues long after authority shifts. The greatest leaders are remembered not for their dominance, but for their service. The strongest people in society are not those who force their will on others, but those who harness their influence to elevate, guide, protect, and empower. Service requires humility, and humility requires strength. Anyone can demand attention, few can give attention. Anyone can impose their will, few can shape a vision others want to follow. Anyone can bark orders, few can cultivate hope. Service-based power is rare because it demands inner security rather than outward force. When a leader or influencer uses power to serve, they create an environment where people grow instead of shrink. They build trust because they communicate through their actions that others matter. They inspire loyalty because people sense sincerity instead of self-interest. They spark transformation because they focus on lifting others rather than inflating themselves. A servant-minded leader does not fear losing power because their authority does not rely on control. Their power flows from integrity, dedication, and character qualities that cannot be taken away by changing circumstances. Power rooted in dominance leads to loneliness because domination discourages authenticity. People begin to hide their true thoughts, suppress their creativity, and silence their voice. But power rooted in service fosters community. It invites collaboration, encourages honesty, and strengthens unity. It turns a group of individuals into a team, and a team into a movement. The person who serves with influence doesn't just lead, they create leaders. They empower others to rise, and in doing so, they multiply the impact of their influence. Domination may feel strong in the moment, but it often masks inner weakness. It is a posture taken by those who fear vulnerability and lack self-assurance. In contrast, service reveals inner strength. It demonstrates the courage to put others first, the confidence to elevate others, and the vision to pursue something beyond personal gain. True power operates with generosity, not greed, with purpose, not pride, with compassion, not coercion. Consider the nature of influence in everyday life. A parent holds power over a child, but the most impactful parents are those who guide with love rather than intimidation. A teacher holds power over students, yet the teachers who change lives are those who invest time, effort, and care into the growth of others. A manager holds power over employees, but the most respected managers are those who mentor, develop, and believe in their team. In every situation, power becomes meaningful when used to support, not suppress. Power used for control creates competition and fear. Power used for service creates trust and growth. Influence rooted in ego divides, while influence rooted in purpose unites. Domination demands obedience, but service inspires devotion. When someone uses power to serve, others willingly follow because they feel seen, valued, and supported. This is the type of power that endures because it is woven into the lives of those who are uplifted. There is a strength in serving that few understand. It demands patience when others are impatient, clarity when others are confused, stability when others are overwhelmed. Service means carrying responsibility without seeking applause, doing the right thing even when no one notices, and standing firm not because of pride but because of purpose. It means stepping forward not to be admired but to be useful. The one who uses power to serve understands that influence carries responsibility. It requires accountability, empathy, and wisdom. Power that is unchecked becomes destructive. Power that is grounded becomes transformational. A servant leader seeks to understand before demanding to be understood. They listen before they speak. They support before they criticize. They build before they boast. Their influence flows not from force but from faithfulness. As long as humanity exists, the world will always need people who understand this deeper calling of power. It needs individuals who refuse to be intoxicated by authority, who refuse to treat leadership as entitlement, who refuse to pursue influence for personal elevation. Instead, The world longs for those who recognize that real greatness is found in the quiet actions of daily service, the unseen sacrifices that strengthen others, and the humble choices that create pathways for people to thrive. The person who uses their power to serve discovers a profound truth. Influence grows when it is shared. Respect deepens when it is earned through character. Trust expands when it is nurtured through consistency. And leadership becomes meaningful when it is used to lift others higher rather than push them down. Asterisk, asterisk, wealth is a tool. Without wisdom, it becomes a trap that cannot deliver fulfillment. Asterisk, asterisk, wealth is one of the most powerful forces in human life. It has the ability to create comfort, open opportunities, provide security, and fund dreams. It can build schools, heal the hurting, feed the hungry, and transform communities. Wealth itself is not the problem. The real challenge is the posture of the heart toward it. Many pursue wealth, believing that once they achieve enough, life will finally feel complete, peaceful, or meaningful. Yet throughout history and in every generation, countless individuals have discovered the same truth. Wealth can improve environments but cannot heal emptiness. It can change circumstances but cannot transform the soul. It can buy luxuries but cannot purchase lasting fulfillment. The pursuit of riches becomes dangerous when wealth shifts from being a tool to becoming a master. When a person begins to define their identity by what they own, they place themselves on an endless treadmill of wanting more, yet never feeling satisfied. The appetite for wealth grows as it is fed. The more a person gains without wisdom, the more they begin to believe their value increases with their possessions. But when identity becomes tied to accumulation, the heart loses its anchor. Happiness becomes dependent on circumstances, and peace becomes fragile, constantly threatened by loss, comparison, or fear of insufficiency. Many people live under the illusion that wealth automatically brings contentment. They chase promotions, overtime, investments, and opportunities with one belief in mind: when I have more, I will finally feel secure. But genuine security is not found in a bank account. Wealth can vanish overnight through market shifts, unexpected crises, or personal failures. When security depends on something that can disappear, fear becomes a permanent companion. The person who depends entirely on wealth for peace will always feel slightly unsafe, even when their resources are abundant. Wisdom transforms the way a person sees wealth. Instead of chasing riches as a source of identity, wisdom recognizes wealth as a temporary resource entrusted to us for purpose, impact, and stewardship. With wisdom, money becomes a servant instead of a master. It becomes a tool used intentionally rather than a treasure clung to anxiously. The person who uses wealth wisely understands that the worth of their life is not measured by the value of their possessions, but by the values that shape their character. Without wisdom, riches become a trap because they create illusions. One illusion is that wealth will fix emotional voids. People who feel empty often believe that buying more, achieving more, or owning more will fill the gaps inside them. They surround themselves with things, hoping those things will silence their inner restlessness. But material possessions cannot soothe spiritual hunger. They cannot replace meaningful relationships, heal past wounds, or satisfy the deeper longing for purpose. Many who appear successful on the outside struggle with quiet desperation on the inside because they have learned too late that wealth cannot repair the soul. Another illusion is that wealth brings admiration. Many chase riches not because they want comfort, but because they crave validation. They want others to notice, applaud, or envy them. But admiration built on possessions is shallow and temporary. People may praise what someone owns, but that praise evaporates the moment circumstances change. True respect is rooted not in wealth, but in character. A wealthy person without integrity may command attention, but they do not command honor. And honor is far more valuable than applause. A third illusion is that wealth eliminates problems. Riches can certainly solve financial struggles, but financial struggles are only one part of life. Money cannot protect relationships from neglect. It cannot safeguard mental well-being from stress or insecurity. It cannot prevent conflict, heartbreak, betrayal, or disappointment. Some of the most prosperous individuals experience the deepest loneliness because relationships built around wealth are often transactional, unstable, or conditional. Wisdom breaks the illusions surrounding wealth by restoring balance. It teaches that money can enhance life but cannot define it. It encourages gratitude rather than greed, responsibility rather than recklessness, generosity rather than hoarding. A wise person uses wealth to bless others, support meaningful work, strengthen future generations, and create environments of growth and stability. Wealth used with wisdom becomes a river that nourishes, not a dam that isolates. When riches become a trap, it is often because the pursuit of wealth overshadows the pursuit of purpose. Many sacrifice relationships, health, time, and joy chasing financial success. They work relentlessly, yet forget to live. They accumulate possessions, yet neglect connection. They achieve status, yet lose peace. Wealth gained without wisdom may bring temporary excitement, but eventually exposes a deeper emptiness. Without purpose, even the greatest fortune feels unsatisfying. Wisdom reminds us that wealth should serve the life we are meant to live, not replace it. A wise person understands the importance of balance, ambition with integrity, success with humility, prosperity with generosity. They recognize that wealth is meant to flow through their hands, not just into them. They understand that every resource carries responsibility and every blessing carries opportunity. A life guided by wisdom sees wealth as a chance to create legacy rather than indulge in excess. Legacy is not about how much money is left behind, but about the impact created while living. Generosity plants seeds that grow long after the giver is gone. Acts of service, investments in people, contributions to community, these become a form of wealth that cannot be taken away. When riches are used with purpose, they build something far greater than material comfort. They build meaning. Without wisdom, wealth becomes a trap because it blinds the heart. It breeds comparison, envy, pride, or fear of losing what has been gained. It replaces contentment with craving. It convinces a person that enough is never enough. This trap tightens slowly, often unnoticed, until a person realizes that their life revolves around money rather than the things that truly matter. But with wisdom, wealth becomes a tool that empowers growth, supports dreams, and strengthens communities. It becomes a source of opportunity rather than obsession. When guided by wisdom, a person discovers that fulfillment is not found in storing wealth, but in using it for something greater than themselves. They learn that the richest life is not the one filled with possessions, but the one filled with purpose, gratitude, generosity, and integrity. Asterisk, asterisk, materialism steals, contentment, possessions can fill your home but not your heart. Asterisk, asterisk, materialism has become one of the most subtle yet powerful influences on the modern human experience. It whispers constantly, quietly, shaping values, priorities, and desires. Its voice fills advertisements, entertainment, conversations, and daily routines. It promises that happiness is just one purchase away, that fulfillment lies in acquiring more, that success is measured by accumulation, and that worth is defined by ownership. But beneath the glossy surface of material abundance, countless lives have come to realize a difficult truth. These promises are illusions. Materialism steals contentment by replacing gratitude with craving, simplicity with complexity, and inner peace with relentless pursuit. Possessions in themselves are not the enemy. It is natural and reasonable to desire comfort, security, and beauty. It is human to enjoy the fruit of one's labor and to appreciate the conveniences and resources that make life richer and easier. The danger arises when possessions become the center of one's identity, when they begin to overshadow relationships, values, and purpose. Materialism is not about what a person owns, it is about what owns the person. It is about the unseen grip that consumer culture can place on the heart, creating a cycle of desire that never seems to end. Materialism thrives on comparison. It fuels the idea that satisfaction is not found in having enough, but in having more than others. A person may feel content for a moment until they see someone with a newer version, a bigger house, a more luxurious lifestyle. Suddenly, what once felt sufficient now feels small. What once felt beautiful now appears outdated. What once brought joy now seems inadequate. This comparison traps the heart in a constant state of wanting, and this wanting erases contentment. No matter how much is gained, there is always something still out of reach. In this way, materialism becomes a thief of peace. It creates unnecessary pressure to perform, to upgrade, to maintain appearances, to keep up with societal expectations. It convinces people that their value is tied to their image, and their image is tied to their possessions. As a result, many carry silent burdens, financial stress, hidden debt, overextended budgets, or restless dissatisfaction, all to maintain a lifestyle that does not reflect genuine joy. The pursuit of possessions often comes with a high emotional cost, one that few recognize until the weight becomes overwhelming. Materialism not only steals contentment, it steals time. Time spent chasing, shopping, working excessively, managing, organizing, cleaning, storing, or protecting possessions slowly eats away at the hours that could have been invested in relationships, creativity, rest, and personal growth. The world encourages people to fill their lives with things, but in doing so, many unintentionally empty their lives of meaning. Homes become full while hearts feel empty. Schedules overflow while joy runs dry. It is a paradox of modern life that people have more possessions than ever before, yet feel less satisfied than generations who lived with far less. The minimalistic lifestyles of the past were not romanticized, they simply reflected necessity. But in that simplicity, many experienced stronger communities, deeper relationships, quieter minds, and a more grounded sense of gratitude. The abundance of options today, while convenient, has also created decision fatigue, envy, clutter, and an endless search for the next upgrade. Materialism also distorts identity. When individuals believe their worth is tied to what they own, their sense of self becomes unstable. They begin to fear loss because loss threatens identity. They begin to pursue more because more feels like an increase in value. They become protective, anxious, or competitive because possessions become symbols of success. But identity rooted in materialism is fragile because possessions are temporary. They break, they fade, they become obsolete, they can be stolen, or they can be lost. When identity depends on what can be taken, insecurity becomes inevitable. Another hidden danger of materialism is the false expectation that possessions can solve emotional pain. Many people numb sadness or boredom by shopping. They soothe insecurity with new clothes, escape stress through new gadgets, or mask discontent with constant upgrades. This temporary relief often feels like a quick fix, but the emptiness returns as soon as the excitement fades. Material solutions cannot heal non-material problems. They cannot replace meaningful relationships, deepen self-worth, cure loneliness, or answer the longing for purpose. They can distract, but they cannot satisfy. The heart was not created to be fulfilled by things. It was created to be fulfilled by connection, meaning, and truth. When possessions take the place of deeper joys, family, friendship, community, purpose, service, growth, life begins to feel hollow, even if it appears full on the outside. People who live surrounded by abundance often experience a quiet ache, wondering why comfort has not led to peace and why luxury has not led to joy. The truth is simple. Contentment does not come from external accumulation, but from internal alignment. Materialism steals gratitude by making people focus on what they lack rather than what they have. Gratitude thrives when the heart sees blessings clearly, but materialism clouds that vision. It directs attention to the next purchase instead of today's provision. It encourages a mindset of scarcity even in the midst of plenty. But gratitude is the foundation of contentment. Without it, nothing is ever enough. With it, even simple things feel rich. To break free from the trap of materialism, a shift in perspective is needed. It begins by recognizing that possessions are tools meant to serve life, not define it. When possessions serve, they bring convenience, joy, and comfort. When they rule, they bring stress, fear, and dissatisfaction. The balance is found by remembering that things are temporary, but values are lasting. Things can be replaced, but relationships cannot. Things can fill shelves, but they cannot fill the soul. Simplicity is not about having nothing. It is about having enough. It is about choosing clarity over clutter, meaning over excess, and peace over pressure. It is about freeing the heart from the noise of constant wanting so it can finally hear the quiet voice of contentment. When possessions stop controlling the narrative, room opens for gratitude, rest, joy, creativity, and genuine connection. Homes can be filled with objects, yet hearts can still feel empty. Fulfillment does not come from the size of the house, the price of the car, the brand of clothing, or the amount of money in the account. It comes from the richness of character, the depth of relationships, the strength of purpose, and the peace found in appreciating what already exists. The person who understands this discovers a profound truth. Material things may create comfort, but they cannot create contentment. Contentment is an internal posture, shaped not by accumulation, but by perspective. Asterisk, asterisk, lasting purpose comes from pursuing what is eternal, not what is temporary. Asterisk, asterisk, every human being carries within them a deep longing for purpose. This longing is woven into the very essence of our existence. We are not content simply drifting through life. We desire meaning, direction, and a reason to rise each morning with hope and determination. Yet many people search for purpose in places that cannot provide it. They chase temporary accomplishments, fleeting pleasures, social approval, financial milestones, or recognition that fades as quickly as it appears. These pursuits may bring excitement or satisfaction for a moment, but they cannot anchor a life or strengthen a soul. Lasting purpose is never found in what is temporary. It is found only in what carries eternal value, what transcends the moment, what gives meaning beyond the immediate. There is a profound difference between success and purpose. Success is measured by achievements that can be counted, displayed, or celebrated by others. Purpose is measured by the impact a life makes, the person one becomes, and the legacy one leaves. Success is external, purpose is internal. Success is temporary, purpose is enduring. Many people experience worldly success yet still feel empty because success without purpose collapses under the weight of meaninglessness. When accomplishment becomes the goal rather than the byproduct, the heart eventually feels unfulfilled. Temporary pursuits often disguise themselves as purpose. Ambition can look like direction. Desire can look like calling. And appetite can look like destiny. But these temporary pursuits disappear when circumstances shift. A job title can be lost. Applause can fade. Wealth can vanish. Physical strength can weaken. And reputation can change in an instant. If purpose is tied to something that can be taken away, then purpose will always be fragile. A fragile purpose leads to a fragile life, one that feels unstable and uncertain. To build a life on what is eternal means to root identity, priorities, and actions in values that endure, values like love, integrity, courage, compassion, humility, service, and faithfulness. These qualities cannot be bought, cannot be taken away, and do not lose their worth over time. They form the framework of a life filled with meaning. When a person chooses to live for what is eternal, they rise above the moment-to-moment pressures of culture and begin to see life from a broader, deeper perspective. One of the strongest indicators that someone is pursuing temporary things is that their heart is always restless. Temporary pursuits create constant urgency. There is always a next goal, a next achievement, a next purchase, a next step. Restlessness becomes the engine of life, pushing a person forward without ever allowing them to pause, breathe, or reflect. But eternal purpose brings peace. It centers the heart. It gives clarity even when circumstances are chaotic. A person grounded in eternal purpose can move through challenges with strength because their foundation does not shift with the winds of change. Many people measure their worth by productivity, believing that the more they do, the more valuable they become. But lasting purpose is not about how much one accomplishes. It is about how deeply one lives. It is not about the size of one's influence, but the sincerity of one's impact. When a person chooses to pursue what is eternal, they begin to ask different questions, questions that reveal depth and authenticity. Instead of how much can I gain, they ask how much can I give. Instead of how can I be noticed, they ask how can I make a difference. Instead of what will make me successful, they ask what will make me significant. These questions shift the heart away from temporary pursuits and toward lasting purpose. Purpose rooted in eternal values also brings direction. When someone lacks purpose, they often feel lost or overwhelmed by choices. They drift from one idea to another, hoping to stumble into meaning. But when someone has a clear sense of what they are living for, decisions become easier, priorities become clearer, distractions lose their power. Not everything deserves attention. Not everything deserves energy. Not everything deserves to shape the direction of a life. Eternal purpose acts like a compass, guiding choices and protecting the heart from becoming entangled in pursuits that drain rather than strengthen. Another profound aspect of eternal purpose is the way it shapes relationships. Temporary pursuits often push people into isolation because they encourage competition, self-promotion, and comparison. When achievement becomes the goal, people may sacrifice relationships to gain more. But when eternal purpose guides a life, relationships become central. Compassion grows. Patience deepens. Community becomes a place of support rather than rivalry. Purpose flourishes in connection, not isolation. The most meaningful lives are those that have poured into others, served others, encouraged others, and lifted others. It is also true that eternal purpose transforms adversity. Temporary goals crumble under pressure because adversity threatens their stability. But eternal purpose sees struggle through a different lens. Difficult seasons become opportunities for growth rather than signs of failure. Obstacles become teachers rather than barriers. Pain becomes a catalyst for transformation rather than a reason to give up. A life rooted in eternal purpose does not break when storms come. It bends, grows, and strengthens. Lasting purpose also reveals itself in legacy. Legacy is not about fame or recognition. It is about the imprint left on the lives of others. Legacy is created by consistent choices, daily actions, quiet sacrifices, and unwavering values. A person who lives for what is eternal leaves behind a trail of influence, lessons passed down, kindness shown, wisdom shared, encouragement given, and lives touched. These things outlast time. They endure beyond generations. They shape futures long after the individual is gone. People often fear that their lives will not matter. This fear drives many into frantic activity, trying to find significance in external achievements. But every life matters when it is lived with purpose. Lasting purpose comes not from doing extraordinary things, but from doing ordinary things with extraordinary intention. It comes from living with integrity, loving with sincerity, and serving with humility. These simple yet profound acts carry eternal weight. The pursuit of eternal purpose frees the heart from the need to constantly prove itself. It allows a person to live authentically, not for approval, but for meaning. It allows them to rest in the confidence that their worth does not depend on circumstances, but on character. When someone understands this, they no longer chase temporary pleasures or short-lived validation. They begin to build a life anchored in values that time cannot erase. Temporary things may glitter, but they fade. Eternal purpose may require patience, discipline, and reflection, but it fills a life with meaning that endures. When the temporary is stripped away, what remains is what truly matters: character, love, truth, and the impact a person has made on the world around them. Here is a strong, unifying conclusion that brings the entire sermon together in the same classic motivational style while avoiding any direct references to specific preachers. Asterisk, asterisk, conclusion, asterisk, asterisk. We have walked through the deep struggles of the human heart, the temptations of desire, the illusions of power, the pursuit of wealth, the trap of materialism, and the call to a higher purpose. These forces shape our world, but they do not have to control our lives. The world offers temporary pleasures, temporary victories, and temporary treasures, yet none of them can fill the longing within the human spirit. Desire without discipline leaves emptiness. Power without humility leaves isolation. Wealth without wisdom becomes a burden instead of a blessing. Materialism clouds the heart and steals contentment. But there is a calling that rises above them all, a calling to live for what is lasting, eternal, and true. This entire journey leads to one truth. A meaningful life begins when we stop chasing what fades and start embracing what endures. Strength comes from character, not conquest. Peace comes from gratitude, not accumulation. Joy comes from relationships, not possessions. Purpose comes from values that outlive time itself. When the heart turns away from the temporary and begins to pursue what is eternal, life becomes clearer, richer, and filled with direction. The distractions lose their power, the fears lose their grip, and the soul stands anchored in something far deeper than circumstance. The world will always tempt, distract, and demand, but you have the power to choose a different path, a path marked by discipline, humility, wisdom, simplicity, and purpose. A path that leads not to emptiness but to fulfillment. A path that builds not a temporary image but a lasting legacy. The choice to rise above the temporary is the choice to live with intention, integrity, and meaning. And when that choice is made, everything changes from the direction of your days to the condition of your heart.